I'm Brad.
I'm Scott.
This is Curiosity.
And we are here with Greg Sanzo. Welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me.
We are at Wildcatter Studio. You've got some relationships and connections here.
Yeah.
So kind of a cool reunion.
But, oddly enough.
A serendipitous collision, too. We didn't know that
we didn't.
we were all connected. We were like 1 degree of separation from each other in a sense, but then also we all know the same people. So it's actually 0 degrees of separation.
Yeah. It's like best friends that hadn't met yet. Kind of
Yeah,
thing.
it was kind of cool.
It's
I walked in
amazing.
and was like, wait, I know you guys.
His first question, he goes, wait, is this Digital Wildcatters? I was like, yeah. He's like, how do you know them? I'm like, well, they're our production company. So we know each other, you know. We kind of go back a bit. A couple years now.
Yeah.
Very
It's
good.
crazy.
Very good.
Super cool.
That doesn't surprise me, though. That's usually how life works, my life works, and most, if you just kind of let the kismet things happen, they happen.
Yeah,
And
the
when it comes
serendipity of the universe is so beautiful. So I have to start with, for those who are not watching, my shirt that I'm super excited
Yes.
about from Change.
Brad wants to show off his shirt. We're going to put it in the show art.
Yeah, so it's water the colors of your mind and grow at your own pace.
You're going to have to stand up.
So we're going to stand real quick here. Yeah.
There we go. Got a good shot of it.
And for a conversation like today, where we're really blending together art and mental health and the journey of life through the lens of curiosity and the complexities of reality and how that narrative takes form and shape, I think it's going to be a really special conversation around the complexities, but also the simplification of those complexities as we navigate through that journey. And we're just super grateful to have you on today, man, and really excited for this journey.
I'm excited to be here. We've been talking about it for a minute, and it's something that I kind of, y'all's whole thing is really in line with how I live my life and what really drives me to create and drives me to do the things I do based on art and mental health. It's where it all comes from.
Can we dig into some of the motivators? Like what gets you out of bed in the morning and like what are you kind of solving for? Like what kind of drives you?
I think for me at a young age, I realized that, well, I didn't realize this. I couldn't stop doing or making or creating or destroying and then creating, recreating. So like I didn't have a grasp on that, but anything that forced me to go inside of myself and bring that outwardly, like I excelled at and I dove into, and whether I was new at it or not, I somehow found a way to be good at it or get as good as I could as quickly as I could, because it was just that is what drove me, was that creative spirit, that curiosity, if you will. First plug. First boom. Yeah. Well,
Boom.
That I always saw a problem with what everybody considered normal. I did construction jobs with my dad. I did normal jobs. I worked at Target. I did the stuff. I knew that I can't do this because there's no real fulfillment for me.
Yeah.
And as I grew older, that became clear. It's like, well, duh, I just got to be creating something, like, and fulfilling that drive, or I'm gonna rot as a being, I didn't realize that until I was way later, but it all made sense. That's why average student, BEC student, super smart, but didn't study and, didn't apply myself to what I felt like was slavery.
Sure. Sure.
But sports and art and, anything artistic or creative or expressive, that was me coming outward. That was easy.
As you reflect back, like what's one of like the first things that you created that you sort of look back and are like, were destroyed and recreated that that sort of like you think back to, like, yeah, that was like kind of a point in time where things kind of built off of.
Well, I was always into the letters and the typography and stuff, and I got in trouble for carving my name into the side of my bunk bed with a knife, and then you know, but that was just like tendency. I mean, my dad has a picture of me running down the hallway with a diaper smearing shit on the wall, which may have been the first sign of graffiti. I don't know, but
I think so. That's awesome.
You wanted to leave your mark.
Yeah. But I mean, it's, you know, but all that stuff, like, I think, man, there was just so much. If I wasn't drawing, I was learning music. I was playing trumpet. I was learning guitar. If I wasn't doing that, you know, I was heavily doing sports to the point to where the guy next to me, there's no way he was going to be better than me, you know, and I think that's the same drive and that comes from the same stuff. So I think on a creative level for me as a kid, like trying to recreate Dragon Ball Z characters and drawing them all lopsided and not understanding perspective and stuff like that as a kid, like as, you know, actual basics of composition. Like I didn't know shit. I was just drawing, but seeing that but seeing my distorted like afterwards and then like looking at a real one and looking at what the fuck, I gotta get better at this, you know? I mean, of course that's not what I'm saying as a kid, but
Sure.
That was it. And that was it. It was like, oh, okay, well, this is a creation, but that sucks. That's not good. I see the level of creation that people, I gotta get better at this, you know? And I just dive in no matter what it was and force myself to be better.
I mean, you've got like a real competitive like streak sort of through that, whether it's sports or art. Like,
right.
What's sort of like that drive to excel? Like, is it?
Right.
Is it?
I mean,
just
that's why I'm addicted to golf now. Like, I can't take any more brain damage, so I can't fight anymore, right? So, like, golf is the same thing. It clicks that competitiveness with my own self. It's not, you know. I mean, yeah, I walk out there and I have a random playing partner that's a 63-year-old dude that's been playing for 40, 50 years. Like, I am beating him. I don't care. I mean, that's not really my mentality when I'm out there to play around. But,
Sure.
You know, as that type of person, like, I don't want to lose to a 67-year-old playing partner who's way better and hits the ball way straighter than me, you know? Like, he's just been doing it. But that's that drive to be as best you can. And if there's a guy next to me that's better than I am, like, well, what's he doing? You know? Like, how is he better than me?
Sure.
It's really fascinating to think about a parallel between competition and curiosity. It's not something that I've really explored much in my lived experiences because I'm not a super competitive person. I've always said over the years, like, I'm here to perform, not compete. And so I don't really get motivated by competition.
Performance is it for me. That's why
okay.
I like it. It's like, I don't want to play golf just to play randomly. I want to get good enough to where I can play tournaments and prove to myself that I'm good enough to compete.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
So maybe it's almost like competition with self. Is that fair?
That's it. That's the thing with fighting.
Yeah.
Is the thing with
that I can relate to. I tend to, like, the only benchmark is with myself. Yeah. And if I'm where in whatever my brain has conjured up of what good looks like and aligns with, like, ambitions and motivations and desirability, then, like, and there's a sense of joy that comes from that and fulfillment, as opposed to, like, a comparative analysis of self compared to other humans. That doesn't seem to motivate my soul very well. And the idea of competition, whether with self or with others, and the role of curiosity as a motivator for that's really interesting. I guess in that sense, what I meant by that is competition with self as a motivator for curiosity, not the inverse of that.
I think
it makes you more curious, almost, like you said, like, okay, well, I'm here. Yeah. Like, how do I evolve? And you said something else that's really important. You have a goal. You have something that you're working toward.
Yeah.
That's super important. Like, small moments lead to giant leaps.
Right.
Giant leaps don't typically just happen. There's normally a series of events that occur over time that we're intentional about or not that get to those giant leaps. And I think that's a really powerful perspective, because what I've observed over the years, I read this quote. There's this cafe in League City, Texas called Red Oak Cafe. Really good brunch. And in the bathroom, they have all these sticky notes all over the place that people have written stuff down on. It's really cool. And one of them one day I read said, "Do not compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 10.
Yeah.
God, it stuck so well. And I was like, whoa. Especially at that point in my life, I was younger, and, you know, obviously you see other humans around you, and visually, we're visual creatures. We can kind of see where they are in their journey. And you're just like, man, that's really cool. Like, why am I not there yet? You know, and that moment was super powerful to be like, because I'm at chapter one.
Just say that again. Ask that same question as if you're asking it to yourself.
Yeah. Like,
ask it to yourself one more time though.
Yeah.
Like,
why am I not there?
Why are you not there?
Yeah.
Not why is he there?
Yeah.
That's not what you're at. The whole thing
true.
comes down to competition with self.
Yeah.
Your curiosity to be better than the guy next to you has nothing to fucking do with that guy next to you.
Yeah.
Whether you realize that or not. You know, I might just be a step ahead on that sense because I know it's all internal.
Yeah.
Like,
that's everything though, right? Our entire lived experience is either how we perceive ourselves, or as I heard someone say one time, our entire reality is how I perceive the way that someone else perceives me based on my perception.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
That's pretty powerful, right? Because that's what we do. We internalize, but we could only, I mean, you could say the same word to Scott or to me, and we could interpret it very differently, or the same sentence for that matter.
Absolutely.
You know, and vice versa, right? Like, because it's all about my perspective of reality, which I don't think is self-absorbed. It doesn't have to be. I think it's more just a factor of reality.
It's just perception, period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perception is our reality.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Which can be a beautiful thing, but also, you know, whether we're in a state of clarity or confusion, could also be very challenging. I was talking about something this morning. That exact conversation, like we were having a very open, intimate moment around the lived experience that this person was having. They said they've been in confusion in a dark cloud for 10 years.
It's a long time.
And I asked them, what are the steps you're taking to get out of it? And they said, I'm physically getting outside. That's the first step I'm taking.
It's a pretty good first step.
Beautiful and simple. There's a cool artist I like to follow on Instagram. She's a country artist. Morgan Wade is her name.
Okay.
And she had this hat on the other day in one of her posts. It said, simple as dope. I was like, yes, freaking love that. Like, I think we just love to overcomplicate things. And I mean, obviously I'm one who loves words and language and rhetoric. So I really love to use a lot of them in a very colorful way. And sometimes just like simple as dope. Just keep it super simple. We don't have to overcomplicate things that really aren't complicated. And so like maybe as we're in 2023, what are ways to simplify our reality and be intentional, quality over quantity?
Yeah, you kind of summed it up with that last one there, I think. But I think intentionality is huge, but simplifying is like for me, golf, right?
Okay.
Like golf is not a simple game. It's a very complex game.
It looks so simple when you're watching the pros play, but man, it's hard.
A very, like, it's a full movement that happens in 1.5 seconds to hit a little piece of metal against a little ball and make it fly as far as you can with a path that it's an absurdity to get it right. It's literally a mini miracle every time, right? I still find ways to overcomplicate the fucking shit. Like, I still find ways to make it more complicated than it has to be. I mean, I'm out there 7 months into golf. I'm hitting draws. I'm hitting fades. I'm hitting punch shots. I'm hitting stuff that people shouldn't be able to do with that amount of time. But, like, I'm also, you know, I'm overcomplicating my game. And it hurt me for a couple months. And then somebody was like, dude, what? Like, you hit a cut. You hit a fade well. Hit a fade every shot unless you absolutely have no choice. Like, yeah, I guess I should just simplify it, you know. And my score started going, I started scoring well in golf.
Yeah.
The lower the scores, the better.
It's one of the only sports where the lower score is the goal.
So I started, scoring better, and my course management went up. Everything is just, it's just about, like you're saying, it's just simplifying. And it's the same thing in Muay Thai in the fight world. It's like people start learning martial art. They want to learn the spinny, tricky stuff and like flying across the, But if you watch real high-level Muay Thai, it's simple, very simple.
Because part of that is sort of like get you out of your head and like the thought process of it, and sort of you're able to like see that the landscape of things more.
Yeah. So it's a hard thing to explain. I mean, if you understand a flow state, or if you've been in that.
I was so about to take us to flow state, so I'm really stoked that you just cannonballed right into flow state.
Well, yeah, but that's what it is. And when you're in the ring, though, and I mean, you've got fight or flight. It's kill or be killed. It's, I mean, and that sounds drastic, but it's not. People die. I lost a friend this past year to a Muay Thai fight.
Yeah.
So it's literally
the threat's always there.
Yeah, it's literally kill or be killed, and that is a whole nother type of flow.
Wow.
That fight or flight kicks in, and it's either
You got to channel
that person that is going to jump out the ring, or you're the type of person that says, okay, I'm dying on my sword here, or you're dying on my sword here, and that's it. And that creates a whole nother type of flow.
That arena, though, of like applying, I mean, sort of try and connect the conversation about like self-improvement, that self-motivation. Fighting is a fascinating arena to do that, because it's sort of like there is very much a real you are fighting another human that is somewhere on their journey in that particular style of fighting compared to you, and so you get a live, right in the face, literally figuratively, of where you're at in your journey. And so like how do you sort of reconcile the like self development sort of piece of that with the direct comparison to the person on the other
It's
side?
like my worst enemy. Ask any of my coaches, any of the coaches that have ever coached me. My worst enemy my entire career was me. Was me. I fought some hard fucking dude. Do y'all cuss on this thing?
Yeah, we're
Sorry.
all right.
This is a show all about authenticity.
It's like
All
the
right.
fifth time you said fuck already, so like we're all right.
Okay, cool. Sorry, I just, when I'm speaking about something that I'm passionate about or that I've
No, you
experienced, it's
Yeah,
it's
don't
hard for
hesitate,
me
man.
to,
That's open.
it's hard for me. Well,
This
I
is
mean,
your form of rhetoric and how you express yourself and your
Well-
identity, and it's beautiful. So keep going.
I'm sorry, Mom.
Hey, Mom. Greg's mom and my mom.
In all seriousness,
And Scott's
in all
mom.
in all seriousness,
All the moms.
it's about passion with me. But here's the thing: it's like I fought some hard fucking dudes
Yeah.
that had on paper, there's no way that they should have beat me, and I've beat them. I've lost to a lot of them too, but those fights aren't like at that highest level, right? Once you get to a certain level of technique and a certain level of ability within a ring, and Muay Thai within Muay Thai as its own sport and its own art form, martial art, right? You get to a certain level, anybody can beat anybody.
Yeah.
It really comes down to you. It really comes down to where you're at, how you're training, how you're applying yourself, how you're sleeping, how you're resting, how you're avoiding the dumb shit, drugs, alcohol, girls, troublesome girls, and like crazy shit happens in the midst of a fight camp, right? And throughout that 4 to 6 week period, or 2 month period, or 3 month period, however these guys train nowadays is just absurd to me. But like in Thailand, you fight every 6 weeks to 2 months, so it's like you're constantly training, but life is still happening, right?
Sure.
Life is still happening. Your relationships are still happening, and you're sacrificing a lot of that just so you can compete with your own fucking self.
Yeah.
And nobody really understands that until you've dove into that self-betterment. It's like you're improving yourself to fight. And at first I'm like, oh, I'm fighting for glory. I want to be a stadium champion. I want to be one of the first Americans, one of the only a few, like not a whole lot of Americans that have gone over there, lived over there, fought at the highest levels, I want to be known as that guy that fucking did it after a year of amateur fights, just went over there and did it. And I did it,
Yeah.
but I didn't realize why I was doing it
Sure.
until I was 30 something fights in. And at that point, as soon as I made that correlation, like, oh, I'm really fighting myself here. And I wasn't winning against myself. I was winning some fights and losing some fights, but I wasn't winning against myself within the fight. And that's where my desire to fight stopped. And I still did another 3 or 4 fights without the real drive, but that instinct, that killer instinct of like, I'm fighting this other guy across the ring from me. Like as soon as he hits me once, I'm honed in and there's nothing but him and I, and he's not getting out of here until he's done or I'm done. Yeah. You know, like that just kind of clicked off for me, and I was going through the motions, but it was still self-betterment for me. But my interest in Mortal Kombat was, I didn't really care anymore. It was just my only way to express myself.
Can we talk what got you into that expression? Like, got you into Muay Thai? Like, what was kind of the decision?
We go a little more fundamental first?
Sure.
What is Muay Thai? Because not everyone knows what Muay Thai is.
Yeah.
Yes. And then go to that.
I forgot.
What is it, and why'd you pick it?
Yeah.
What got you into it?
That would be really helpful, because I'm sure there's lots of people who are like, cool, I've never heard of this before.
Muay
This
Thai-
is not Muay Thai. This is Muay Thai.
Not Muay Thai.
These are very different things.
Yes, very different things.
Like, we're not mispronouncing here. This is what it
Muay
is.
Thai
Yes.
is a martial art that started in Thailand. It is similar to kickboxing, except kickboxing is really a dumbed down version of it. So it's all striking. It's stand up, punches, kicks, knees, and elbows, and standing clinch, right? It's all stand, no ground game, the grappling all happens standing, but during that time, you're scoring with knees and elbows. You can sweep and dump, but you can't go to the ground, and so it's all stand up. It's very high action, but it's a chess match. Like kickboxing is volume, it's all punches and kicks and knees, but no clinch work, no elbows. It's very volume. Who hits the most in the least amount of time and creates the most amount of damage, right? It's very like bowling ball, like boom, 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 right? Muay Thai is chess.
Okay. Now, is Muay Thai a part of mixed martial arts, or is that a separate discipline altogether, or is that one and the same? Are they synonymous or completely different?
I want you to ask me that question again.
Okay. Are Muay Thai and mixed martial arts synonymous?
What is mixed martial arts?
That is my question.
Mixed martial arts.
That is my next question, I should say.
Sorry. Mixed martial arts, and what people don't understand is mixed martial arts is a bunch of martial arts mixed into one sport.
That's what it sounds like.
Yeah,
That's good.
it's one sport,
Okay.
right? So Muay Thai, yes, people that fight MMA train Muay Thai.
Okay.
They train Jiu-Jitsu.
Got it.
They train...
So you're taking a variety of disciplines in
Into
mixed
one
martial
sport.
arts into one sport.
Well, let's just go ahead and say you're bastardizing a lot of disciplines. And
Got it.
making it
Okay.
You're sort of removing the barriers of everything.
So Greg has
sort
a
of like
very
bring what you
strong opinion of that, which is great. I love it.
Very strong.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, a lot of people don't like me because of how much I like Muay Thai and how much of a purist I am, but fuck you.
Hey, I love being a purist.
Yeah,
I'm a
I mean,
purist
it's
in
an
many
art
senses.
form. You
So
can't
Muay
change
Thai is a
something.
pure form.
Yeah.
Just like you said, Jiu-Jitsu is a pure form. Okay, that's super helpful.
Yes.
Thank
And
you.
Now, I don't know that all pure jiu-jitsu guys are going to say, oh, yeah, the guys in the MMA. And that might be a little bit of
My cousin does capoeira.
capoeira. Another
Yeah.
martial art that's really fucking cool.
Yeah, he loves
beautiful
it.
Brazilian.
It's beautiful.
That's an
Great
awesome,
history
dude,
and
the
to it.
actual so there's a type of capoeira that's actually based more on effectiveness.
Yeah,
and impact and actual striking.
yeah, he likes to do
shit's
that in like the dance.
Yeah, the
form of-
capoeira
yeah,
dance
yeah,
form,
he
right?
loves
But
the dance
those
form.
are all based off of actual strikes that these guys actually do.
Yeah, he has a jiu-jitsu background and then went into capoeira.
Yeah, dude, that's cool.
You know,
That's-
that, well, the
it's
history
really
of that,
interesting.
just briefly, you guys probably know, is it sprung from slavery in Brazil.
Really?
And so they weren't allowed to fight.
I love how you said we probably know. Like, no, I don't know,
and,
but I'm so
they
intrigued.
developed what appeared to be to sort of the masters
Oh.
dancing. But it was
is
actual.
brilliant.
It was a style of fighting that they
awesome.
they had been developing, but that was intended to mask what was actually going on. So it has a
There's a
deep history.
metaphor that we could dive so deep into on that whole narrative that we probably should say focus here, but wow, that's fascinating.
And that's where, and I guess sort of to reinforce Sanzo's point around like the purity of this is
Perception.
rooted in
Right. So Muay Thai was developed based off of being like during ancient Siam times, like in Southeast Asia, they use swords. And if you didn't have weapons, your body becomes that weapon, right?
Oh, wow.
So your elbows are your knives, right? Your knees are your spears, your kicks, your shield. When you block, like everything, your body becomes the weapon. So it's Muay Thai is literally your entire body is now your weapon
Activated,
and your
yeah.
defense.
I think one of the things I've always found most fascinating about these crafts is the flexibility. I mean, like, you're kicking your leg really high. Like, it's amazing. I've seen you in the gym at the studio, and it's impressive.
I mean, that's sort of like it seems
I
like
cannot do that.
Just calling it sort of the arena of Muay Thai, like it allows you to explore limitations of your body in a way that not
once you
many
get
things
past
do.
the body part, then it becomes all about your mind.
Yeah, like once you have the technique and the physical strength and the flexibility,
it's hard.
You've brought that full kit to bear.
Do you have the heart to continue through your obstacles?
Wow.
That's it. And
there's a question that I want to ask, and I'm hopeful it's not offensive, but I want to get to like the conversation about like mental health and art. But like on one side of this coin, there is like a discipline that's like you've got to show up with like routine and like shaping and forming your body. And you've been open about addiction and other challenges, which in a lot of ways is undisciplined in some. Can we talk a bit about like the two sides of that coin in your mind, and like what you've kind of learned on this journey as you've kind of juxtaposed these achieving like the pinnacle of like an incredibly difficult sport and the discipline required. But
especially as a professional athlete, like that's amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I'd just love to understand like what you've learned from like those like two things, or if I'm like missing the point, or
no, man. I think I think that when you get somebody like me, right, addictive personalities, whatever you want, alcoholic addict, right, I've been in recovery for 3 years. I don't drink or do drugs anymore. I smoke weed to mitigate traumatic brain injuries.
Sure.
Which is as far as I'll go. But when you put somebody like me in a situation to where you're competing with yourself, but at the same time you're at a level to where it's like Yao Ming coming and playing basketball. I mean, maybe not at that level, but Muay Thai is the national sport there, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I found Muay Thai at a time when I was lost as all get out, Found Muay Thai, and it gave me some structure. It gave me something to do 2 times a day that took 6 hours of each day, and it was a constant process of me getting better, right? Whether it was body first and then mind and then competition. I mean, all I wanted to do was fight people. It was like, dude, get me ready. I'll fight tomorrow. I don't care. Like, let's do it. Just let me bang, bro. But what I didn't really grasp is actually the self-development until later. It was sport. It was competition for me. It was something that I could do, and I felt that, I could make it to the highest levels of this. As an athlete, I was a freak athlete when I started. I was 26 years old. I started late. I was 26 years old, but I was like 210 and absurd functionality. Like, I was a big dude, but really strong and flexible and functional, and worked my way down all the way, to fighting at 155. Wow. Like, all I did, it's like, but that's all I did was just dive into that. Now, that brought a lot of the toxicity that I had already been exposed to my whole life that I thought I was getting away from. I found it in that same thing that was my escape,
Wow.
Yeah.
I found that, and I found it pretty hard. I found it pretty well too. I mean, everything from, I've seen the ins and outs, Thai society, from guttural shit to fucking high society girlfriend that broke up with me because somebody in her modeling agency found out that she was dating the white dude that just fought on TV that has tattoos. So her mom calls her crying, like, because they call her mom. They don't call her. They call her mom. You're like, hey, your daughter's dating this foreigner that fights on TV and stuff. And like, so her mom calls her and is like crying, like, I can't believe you're dating this white dude, blah, blah, blah. And then she breaks up with me because she has to. Like, I've seen that level. Yeah. And I've also seen a lot lower level of just struggle, just pure struggle. And no matter what, right, that curiosity for me was to just sell everything, be like, I'm done trying to, I'm done living this type of life, which was very toxic, just bar scene and, partying all the time and not really not doing well, to I'm going to pursue this crazy passion.
And in your mid-20s, like you said, you sold everything and moved to Thailand.
Dude, everything. Like, everything. just was like done, you know? I was like, this is it. This is it for me, you know? And I started Muay Thai, had a smoker like a month in of training, right? Which is a practice fight. And loved it. And then 2 months later went to Thailand for the first time. Like 3 months into ever doing Muay Thai.
Yeah.
Went to Thailand because I was that in love with it. I was like, I gotta go to go to the motherland and learn it from the real people, like really learn from the highest levels and see the culture, experience it, because there's this mysticism about Muay Thai that I just didn't understand yet. I had seen, people doing the ritual dance before the fights, the Mong call, the headdress, and the Prijat armbands and all this stuff. I'm like, this is not just a fight.
There's more to this.
Yeah, these guys are doing this weird dance. They look like they're meditating while they're dancing before their fight. Like, what is this? So I was like, I gotta go. And I went to Thailand 3 months in. There just for a month-long training trip. Yeah, I'm going just to train at a gym and kind of see it and experience it. And, dude, a week in, the gym boss comes up and he's like, you fight, 2 weeks, you fight. Dai Mai, you fight, you want fight? I'm like, yeah, bro. yeah, I want to fight. That's why I'm here. Put me in. I didn't think I was going to fight. I was just going to train, you know? And I went to my coach at the time and the people I was there on the trip with. And shout out to Gary, miss you, Gary. And I said to Gary, I remember sitting on the ring, I said, Gary, you think I should do it? And he's like, well, do you want to do it? And I was like, fuck yeah, I want to do it. He's like, well, then do it. I was like, all right. So I did it. And I had my first fight in Thailand, literally at like 3.5 months of training. Yeah. And broke some dude's arm in the first round of my fight in Bangkok. Outside, it literally looks like some Street Fighter shit. It's like a mall, the MBK Mall, one of the largest malls in Bangkok. That's stories and stories. Each level has different, stuff on it. On Sukhumvit, one of the busiest streets in Bangkok, just people packed outside of a mall around a ring on the street corner. And that was my first real fight.
Was that your first time going there?
It was my first time in Thailand.
When you walked up, were you like,
what did I get myself into?
Dude, no, I was like, this is fucking straight out of a video game.
I am living Mortal Kombat right now. Dude, it's amazing.
People were up on the SkyTrain, the BTS SkyTrain. Like, people were all packed up on the stairs, like watching it's like.
That's amazing. That's fascinating.
It was nuts, but that was my first fight.
Wow.
Yeah. That was my first.
So your life is a video game. Some people say my life is a movie. Your life is a video game.
In that moment, at least.
Yeah, especially in that moment. I mean, and I was just giddy and stoked. And the dude next to me, I could see he had a few fights before, but he was a Swedish dude on a training trip too, and his mom was in there.
This is the guy you fought?
Yeah, he's a Swedish American guy, but he was an MMA guy, right? So he didn't really. He was there to get some striking experience for MMA. Well, I'm there for Muay Thai.
Yeah.
Well, wow. Yeah. So, yeah, he was trying to scoop my low kicks, which is a MMA thing. Scoop and cross. It's very common MMA style defense against. So I looked low and threw a high kick, and his arm was here instead of here, which is like proper technique, and which makes that strong. It was here, and the double impact
snapped it, broke
his arm. And he falls, and he's waving at his arm, and and I could tell when it happened, he started backing up. I was like, his face changed. His demeanor changed. He don't want to be here anymore. And I just went. Sure enough, he fell into the corner after I hit him a couple times, hit him in the head, and he was like, ah. But yeah, that moment, I was like, this is it.
I can do this.
I'm doing this. This is it. Never had I felt so alive. I mean, sure, the smoker was my first time fighting anybody outside of fighting, outside of a controlled environment. My first time experiencing, combat as a sport. But that moment in Thailand, it was like, I tried it. I took the risk. I was like, I wonder if I can, and went and did it. And then it was like, oh yeah, now this is it. This is my career until I can't do it anymore.
So that was intended to be sort of a short-term trip. Did you come back to the States?
Yeah, I came back to the States, and the whole next year, I mean, I think I fought in my first year of fighting. I think I fought 14 times, 15 times. But it was like I was fighting. I would fight a tournament and then have a month or two and then fight and then fight and then fight. Like, I was just trying to fight as much as I could. Yeah. And as soon as, like, after a year, my coaches were like, I was like, well, you know, what's next? You know, after I fought on Glory Kickboxing, fought an undercard, and I didn't perform because my grandfather passed away a few days before. And, you know, my dad, my whole family was like, go and fight. Like, don't miss it for his funeral. You know, like, go and fight. He would want you to fight. And I did, but I didn't really. I just did enough to win. I kind of just did enough to win. So that was like, all right, well, Glory wasn't going to throw a contract at me some, you know, year into fighting, and, you know, just didn't really. I fought well, I won, but I didn't perform like I know I could have. So my coaches were like, well, you know, like, it's just, there's not a lot of opportunities here. You want to build, you want to make this a career, go to Thailand. It's like, okay, you know, and immediately started, you know, I think it took me about a month and a half to make full arrangements, sell everything, and go.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really quick.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, dude, like, when you dive into something that you suddenly feel alive while you're doing, it's like, why would you continue to choose slavery and death?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, there's such a
Sorry,
spirit.
that's really drastic, but you know what I'm saying.
Well,
Yeah.
let's kind of cannonball into that a bit, right? Like, there's the spirit of curiosity in our show is the un, and the un represents what we call rebellious optimism, and our kind of narrative and our part of our manifesto is creating space for those who won't sit and behave, who'd rather defy the rules and amaze. And, you know, so much of your just light within you really kind of brings about this energy of not being willing to exist within the status quo, but create and build the life that you love, deeply embedded within passion and intentionality and authenticity, so much so that it's the only way you know how to live.
I mean, and that's why I moved into storytelling and filmmaking and documentary stuff, is like, because hearing other people's experience and commitment to their passion, their form of creation, it's probably just more and more confirmation and vindication within my own movements of, like, I'm not gonna go work a 9 to 5. I'm not gonna go, you know, I'm not gonna make money for your business and not be taking care of myself. I'm not going to sacrifice myself for someone else's business to not benefit, you know, or to have half of whatever that value is taken away. Like, I refuse to do that. And the only way that I think that you really can do that in today's society is some form of expression, some form of outwardly demonstration of your true self, whatever
It sounds
that may
like,
be.
like in a sense, living by conviction. If that's a fair way to say it.
Yeah.
Which I think is not always the case in society today.
No, it's certainly
I think there's kind of this, like, I mean, it's an art form to live by your passions and your convictions, and so deeply that it's a constant in your life, and then guides every decision that you make. Because I went on a very existential meditation recently where I started thinking about how our humanity and our identity influences every moment in our existence, and the manifestation of that forms our reality, which in a sentence sounds interesting, but if you really start breaking that down into like micro moments, it becomes this like infinite, highly complex factor that becomes really terrifying, because now I'm like, oh wait, every single decision that I make, let's say we make thousands of decisions a day, many of them are unconscious, are directly influencing my reality now, a year from now, 10 years from now, 50 years from now, whatever my time is on this earth, like, or in the existence of reality. Maybe at some point we're off the earth, who knows? But like, oh my gosh, that was like terrifying to kind of get to that point. And then I had to dial myself back to be like, and I'm comfortable recognizing that many of those decisions are going to be made unconsciously or subconsciously. And some of them, those which are conscious are the ones that I will have control over. And so it's almost like you have to kind of appreciate the subconscious and the unconscious, and then recognize that which makes its way up to the conscious is what you need to focus on and be intentional about, maybe. But it was a very terrifying, beautiful experience. And all that said, the role of conviction and purpose and intentionality play such a critical factor in that journey, which leads me to an important part of the conversation that we've kind of talked about, but not directly: addiction. And one thing that I hear you saying, it's almost like there's this sense of addictive personality that finds itself in many different forms. From, like you said, addicted to golf, addicted to drugs, addicted to alcohol, addicted to a sport like Muay Thai. Like, what do you feel like the role of that trait plays? And is that even a fair way to kind of bring that part of the narrative together?
Well, the drugs and the alcohol thing, that's we touched on it early, I think maybe before the cameras were rolling, but I think that is not necessarily, I mean, yeah, there's chemical imbalances that are created when you have a constant drug use thing, or alcohol use or substance abuse or any mind-altering substance on a constant level. There's going to be imbalances created that, cause what we consider addictions. Okay. Right? Which they are. And chemically, scientifically, they're fucking real, right? Your brain is going to crave what it's used to that creates that endorphin release and makes you happy, right? So, but I think the addiction conversation really comes to that blurring of reality. That's the addiction, like, yeah, I know, doctor, I know there's an actual chemical imbalance that makes me fucking crave alcohol and drugs and that, but as through recovery and through being sober for a while, it's like you start to understand, it's like, oh, now I'm handling my emotions, now I'm dealing with myself, now I'm actually understanding, taking the time to understand why and where and how and what's going on with me. Like, I just couldn't fuck with reality, when I was drinking, and I didn't want to fuck with reality. I didn't realize that. I was just partying. I thought it was fun, I'm just hanging out with friends, but the reality is I was blurring the pain and whatever I was feeling. I didn't want to fuck with it, That's not what my thought is. Like, oh, it's fucking 5 o'clock. I'm going to go get a beer, and then I'm going to have a shot, and then I'm going to do some blow, and I'm going to wake up. I'm going to fucking snort an Adderall, and I'm going to get back to work, and then I'm going to smoke weed all day, and then I'm going to start drinking again at 5 o'clock and start it all over again every fucking day for years. Like, no, it's not like I don't want to fuck with reality. That's just the only way that I could manage reality, And I think people don't understand that as you go through that process of removing all of the blurring factors from your reality and you're forced to deal with it. And then it's like, oh shit, the problem wasn't that fucking brown stuff in that whiskey bottle. It's me. It's what I had to deal with that I wasn't dealing with, and where my mind goes and what my emotions and pain. It's like, that's the real addiction, is not dealing.
So do you feel like part of that is, as you're on that type of a journey, right, is part of that getting to a moment in time when you take responsibility as opposed to place blame?
Oh, that's fucking name of the game in recovery. Okay. Whatever program, whether it's AA or 12-step, it's that. It's clean your side of the street, right? It's like the whole nine. It's really about, it's exactly what you said.
I noticed this, and I love analogies around driving for some reason. I've realized this recently.
You do.
I know. Sky and I live in the Heights, and there's this trail on Nicholson that we like to walk.
Yeah.
And you live in the Heights as well. Very close to me. And so
In the same building.
literally in the same building. We basically live
You have the
in
same address.
Yeah, we live in the same house. So it's a very big house. And so what's really interesting is watching people on these cross streets where it's hard to tell whether or not you have a stop sign because of you come up on it really quickly. And
Is that between your place and
onus is-
610?
do what?
Yeah.
Is that between your place and 610?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've cut through there a bunch. I know what you're talking
Oh,
about.
yeah.
Like every other intersection is like a different
Yeah.
combo.
It's very interesting. And the onus is always on the other person. Like today, for example, one person goes through a stop sign and there's a car coming, but they're like pretty far away from them. They're like already on the other side of the road on their merry way. The person coming down the street decides to honk at them. Like, why was this? And they're speeding. So like you're speeding and now you're frustrated with the other car who was in their legal right to go past the stop sign and was already like far past the intersection. But yet you felt a sense to place blame on them based on how you perceived that interaction, irrespective of what responsibility you had in that scenario. It's just really interesting. And I'm just like really thinking so much about in every aspect, I feel like I observe constantly society, individual humans, it's always pointing fingers. But what if I just pointed the fingers at myself and said, what could I do differently?
Like literally, that's the only way that I stop blurring my reality.
Wow.
That's it. It's getting within yourself, understanding your part in everything, right? That whole existential crisis you just had,
Yeah.
that you were talking about. That's it, man. That's it. Is when you can understand that that you're kind of in control of all these situations that you're blaming other people for.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you're the one that really has the power to change that situation.
I don't think we realize how much power we have as humans to shape our reality. I think that we have this victim mindset oftentimes.
I really think Brad took a macro dose.
I do. That's right. That's right.
Yeah. This is just Brad.
No, I know. And I
deep
joke.
existential dive.
We've had enough existential conversations in the hallway of our building.
Yeah, I take a macro existential dose of the universe every day.
universe.
It's
Good,
beautiful.
Well, the comment I want to add to it is that because there's a sort of thing that I carry along around this idea of moral authority, and like there's a lot that happens in society.
I was really hoping you were going to go here.
And
Yes.
behaviors that sort of come to like yeah, and traffic is a set of rules that we all sort of collide with, and what you're sort
Hopefully we don't physically collide in that.
Yeah, but I think it's all that back to perception, right? Have you ever been to Southeast Asia?
I haven't. No.
No.
Have you ever? Okay, so just
And lots of other places, but not
just
Southeast
go-
Asia.
I've been to places where people drive in a way that terrifies me in every sense.
terrifies you, but how much more efficient is it?
So efficient for them.
Watch, just Google traffic cam Bangkok.
It's probably, wait,
Right?
is there not
It's
traffic?
absurd. No, there's ass loads of
Oh,
traffic.
okay.
There's but everybody gets in where you fit in. You know the whole thing. Like everybody's mad at the guy that goes around and then cuts in, right? Because there's a big space up there, but he's running up this.
Sure.
Everybody's
Just
filing
scissor
into one
merge.
line.
Yeah.
Right. Dude, the scissor merge is
the
the way
zipper
to do
merge.
it in time. Nobody follows these lines and rules on the road. Everybody uses their common sense to ebb and flow, get in where you fit in. I mean, and here people die all the time on motorcycles in Thailand too, but you have an abundance of people on scooters and motorcycles weaving in and out of
Bicycles,
traffic. But everybody just goes.
I lived in Sao Paulo for a number of years, and it's the same thing.
Same thing. Same thing in South
whipping
America.
through.
It's something about the understanding and mentality that we're all just kind of trying to get somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like, yo, fuck you, I'm cutting in front of you.
Yeah, it's not like a personal
Yeah,
offense.
or it's like, yo, dude, what the fuck? You just fucking sped up. You just went around this whole entire line and caught the green light and just moved over. Like, yeah, bro, I'm highly efficient. I'm sorry. No, I don't drive like that. But what I'm saying
Well,
is
we
like,
take driving very personally. Like,
Yes.
like as though like as another driver, I'm like vindictive against you. And I'm like, I don't think that's the reality. Like I have watched two vehicles like
I
get
totally
into
drive like that.
road rage challenges
I totally drive.
where I mean I'm sitting here driving, right? And I'm observing this happening. I'm looking, I'm like, wait, that car, you can tell like clearly had no ill intention for this other vehicle, but then this vehicle got very offended by that. And obviously, there's been an epidemic almost, I feel like, in society around road rage and people using weapons to, I guess, release their feelings. And it's like, maybe no one meant you any ill-intentioned harm. They might just be self-absorbed and just driving on their merry way. Yeah, which is what most people are
trying
doing.
to get from
Most
A
of us
to
are
B.
not really paying attention to anyone else on the road.
I have one theory
other than ourselves.
I have one theory about this. Actually, I have a lot of theories about traffic. I actually
we're gonna do an episode on traffic.
We're
gonna bring in like a civil.
If you've ever
engineer.
taken,
We're getting to the point of the episode.
Clearly,
we're
way off.
We're way out of orbit. But if you've ever taken a fluid dynamics
this is only
class,
about being on the edge of the universe and peeking over.
part of the problem is that when's the last time you took a driving class? You're probably 16 years old.
Defensive driving.
Most people learn some very basic how to get around, and then it's all self-taught. And so the problem is like the traffic rules are not fully appreciated. And so it's behavioral, it's observational. That's why if you're driving in West Virginia or you're driving in California or driving in Texas, it's experientially quite different because it's
I feel like
based
Dallas
on,
and Houston is experientially
it's a
different.
learned experience.
That's the same state.
And that's part of the reason I like being in Houston is that they drive like I like to drive.
Yeah, I would agree with that. So, that's interesting. The other maybe thought around that is kind of to your point, do we sometimes over-engineer and put too many rules in place that almost create more traffic? Like I have a buddy who's really into traffic patterns, and he was sharing this story one
Your
time.
buddy would agree with my sentiments on driving. I guarantee.
Yeah, I think so. I do have another friend who is very into your theory. He calls it offensive driving is the new defensive driving. And
I can get down with that.
Yeah, y'all would get along very well on this subject.
I actually don't drive. I have a pregnant wife. I don't try to drive like that all the time. But dude,
I don't want to give him any more validation.
What's his name?
His name's Scott.
Scott, you're right.
I don't want to give Scott any more validation around this, but we have had so many wonderful debates about this topic, and I can't say he's wrong, but I don't necessarily
It just depends what you're solving for.
Validate this.
If you're solving for efficient throughput, there's sort of one set of rules that then sort of cascades down on what the priority should be. And if you're solving for something else, because I think the whole point of getting from A to B is efficient throughput, but there's others that are solving for, hey, it's almost like queuing, like being in a line and feeling like you were here first or whatever it might be. There's a whole blend of problems around that. But I want a hard pivot because you mentioned your documentary filmmaking. And I want to talk about how you got into that, because there's sort of this gap in the story that I don't want to lose, which is you went to Thailand and fought, and then you came back to the States and went back and then filmed. And so fill in some of those blanks for us.
and I think if I can add
I don't want to lead the witness.
But it's beautiful. I think if I can add to that, and maybe even more foundational, is how your journey thus far led to a focus on art and mental health, and how that is now being communicated through film.
Well, yeah, so that was it. It's like I said, with my battles with addiction and substance abuse and alcohol, it brought me to Muay Thai. Muay Thai was kind of my way out. But it, until I really realized what was going on, I wasn't able to actually get away from it. I found it in Muay Thai. I found it outside. I found it wherever I went. I found my way to toxicity, right? But I did a lot of stuff in music, I helped organize some music festivals, and then opened my own event company, right? And this is before I retired, I was kind of on a break and got back into the music stuff. And I took some DJs from Houston to Mexico City, right? This is how this whole idea started. And my event company, the events were based on causes, right? And so I would partner with nonprofits, raise awareness, right? Raise awareness on a situation that, the artist was kin to, or, so I took some artists from Houston to Mexico City to collab with an organization down there called Nafi. Really cool, like art and electronic music, but really art and fashion. Like they're pretty influential in that world in Mexico City, right?
That's super cool.
Yeah, they're cool. So we went down there with a couple DJs from here that were connected to them, and we put on an event to try and benefit the earthquake victims that had just happened there during that time. It was 2016, 2014, 2015. I don't remember, but it was a blurry time for me. So my goal was to capture, and I hired some documentary people to come and capture it, right? And I wanted to get the crossover between influences of the artists from Houston, the artists in Mexico City, because a couple of DJs, Ponch and Noah and all those guys, they do kind of amalgamation of like deconstructed electronic music, but then it's usually has some influence. And Ponch really, Latin influence, and Noah kind of derives some of the stuff from it. And, the other DJs were just, all about this Nafi organization. They were like all about it. And because of their influence within their community, it's just like, I wanted to get that, like, have them work together, have them collaborate, see the influences come together and create something else, and then throw a party at the end of the week and film it all, right? And we did that. But it was an absolute fucking shit show. A production manager snuck drugs into Mexico City, and it turned into the contract with the venue was screwed up because it was in Spanish, and I got lied to, and then we were all on drugs, and it turned into just the party was fun. They produced some pretty cool tracks together, I think. I don't know. Where's my credit? I'm kidding, but like we got all of it on camera.
Wow.
And I didn't realize at the time like what was going on. I knew I was trying to do something, and I knew I was trying to capture that from the artist's point of view, get them talking about why they, and we got some really cool interviews from these guys that, that just love their craft and had a means to go and do it, and we did it. But a year later, I, hit another breaking point, and shortly after that, it was like that event company was just like, I was like, fuck, well, great, my partner just screwed me. Like, what am I gonna do? I threw maybe one or two more little pop-up parties just for fun, because I like bringing people together, whatever. And I was like, dude, I can't do this anymore. Like, it's just too toxic trying to throwing events. It's hurting cats, right? Mm-hmm. But when you're doing art and music events and you're hurting a bunch of drug addict cats, not all the time, but my point was, it was a very toxic situation for me at that point in my life, because I was the drug artist. I mean, the drug addict cat, Yeah. I mean, I was trying to organize all these other people to come together for one thing, So I failed at it. I didn't do very well at it. I mean, I threw some pretty cool parties. There's people that will probably still tell you, like, oh, that was fucking cool, I remember that. But, like, in my mind, there was a lot of balls dropped within the whole process.
Didn't achieve sort of the outcomes that you had.
I mean, some of the outcomes were pretty cool, and probably created some lasting memories for people, whether or not they knew they were there for suicide prevention, or whether they were there for the earthquake, or what I don't care. Like, fine, you like the party, that's cool, but man, I don't want to just do that, I want to do something. I want to bring people together for a reason.
Yeah.
And that was the thing, and it just wasn't gonna vibe. Everybody just wanted to party, So I moved to LA. A buddy of mine in the music industry is like, hey man, come out to LA. Like, you can train me, you can live with me in downtown LA for free. Come out here and I'll hook you up with the people I know in the music industry, and we'll throw some events together. All right, sounds like a great idea. no. I get out there. He's in debt to one drug dealer, and then he somehow put money. He sponsored another rapper that was a part of a rival drug gang from the drug dealer that he owed money. And here I am. I got conned into being this guy's fucking drug errand bodyguard.
Oh, shit.
So we're getting to how I got into documentary film.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm in LA, like couching at this dude's apartment in downtown LA, and now we're best of friends. He's sober. He's married and has a baby and stuff. Like he's turned his life around. I've turned my life around. It's completely different stories, but to get here was pretty interesting.
Wow.
Well, during that time, you know, I didn't know what to do, and I'm like, well, okay. So I started training Muay Thai again, and I started working with Paulo Tosha, Muay Thai legend. He's in Bloodsport. He's the Muay Thai guy in Bloodsport.
Oh, wow.
So I'm working with him.
That's cool.
I'm working with him and trying to do stuff, and I meet this director out there, and director, filmmaker. She does a lot of stuff in marketing now. Her name's Beth, and Beth, I was just talking to Beth, and I was like, "This is what I've done. This is what I'm doing," and she was telling me, and we're talking. She's like, "You need to keep doing that, you know." And over time, I was like, "Oh yeah, maybe I should." She said, "But I want your story. I want to hear your story." So we interviewed me. We did a master interview of me in my shitty apartment that I was living in at the time, and I was on a lot of whiskey and a lot of cocaine during this interview. Like, this was before I had made the realization that, like, I am trying to tell my story through other people. Like, I hadn't found my healing yet, you know? So, like, I'm trying to capture these stories from these artists and get their insight and, like, what they're doing. And the whole time I was really uncovering my own shit.
Sure.
So they interview me with my story. I start this whole process of making a documentary project about art, right? And getting the crossovers. And very shortly after my first interview, it was like, this is about art and the drive to create and your own story within like creation, and that being Muay Thai, being my art form and all that. And dude, we were just like, I didn't know that it was, oh yeah, you're making a thing about art and mental health. I'm just trying to film people that like to create and understand why and what they're doing. I didn't realize that I was stepping into a whole nother art form that is exactly that. It's, you know, you're letting people express themselves on a level that will hopefully help others. And as I made those correlations and the project really took shape and we really understood what we're doing and how and why, like, that's when it's like, oh, okay, now I found my Muay Thai again, you know, and I found my drive, my passion, my convictions of helping others. And now it's through storytelling. I mean, I'm still a personal trainer. You see me every day. I help people on a daily basis feel good about themselves. But my thing with filmmaking is that it's I want other people's stories that may not have been heard or seen or understood to be shared and to make a difference and to drive people for exactly that. It's like to understand the whole curiosity thing, to understand what really creates life, not slavery and death, you know? But dude, I just met the right person and she was like, boom, spark. And she helped me develop it. We did a bunch of interviews. We worked together for a long time on it. And then it just built and built and built. And now she's got a big marketing job. But dude, like Kismet introductions, Kismet reconnections, like my DP is one of my buddies that I used to tour with in a metal band, like, and he's a very, very established videographer, cinematographer, photographer, done stuff for Time magazine, you name it. He's a wizard, and this dude was one of my best friends on tour, and I'm like, hey dude, I'm in LA. Are you in LA? Yeah, let's hang out. We hang out, and then like a week later, I'm like, "Hey, dude, we're making a movie, you know? Like, hey, we're making a film about art and mental health." And he's like, "What the hell are you talking about?" I was like, "I got all this footage. I'm gonna bring it over." You know? He's like, "What the?" I come over. I'm like, "All right, dude. Here's what I have, and this is, you know, all my story. Here's footage from my story. Here's footage from Mexico City. Like, we're gonna film in a week." And he's like, "What?" You know, everybody's like, "What the fuck are you?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm getting this artist. I'm getting this artist. I'm getting an Airbnb. We're gonna do interviews. I've got all these artist friends. I want to hear their stories. We're going to interview them. Cool. Got some private funding, did it, and I met outside of this is just going into the kismet relationships and the meetings that happen when you really commit, right? It's like the first day of filming at the Airbnb that we rented, I had 5 or 6 interviews lined up, including another master interview with me. I mean, we get to the Airbnb and I'm walking Chaba down the street, just right around the corner. And at the coffee shop, there's this guy sitting there with a dog, right? And the dog's me, and I'm like, oh, he's really friendly because Chaba looks like a scary dog. And I was really friendly, and we started talking, and he's like, the guy's like, well, what are you doing here? I'm like, well, we're about to film. We're doing some documentary stuff about art and mental health. And he goes, really? I was like, yeah. He's like, well, do you want to have some coffee with me? I was like, yeah, that's why I'm here. I'm here to get some coffee. Do you want to sit? And I'm like, sure. And I sit and start drinking coffee. This dude is a psychotherapist that specializes with creative people. That's what he does. And I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I work with artists all the time. I work with pariahs that set themselves outside of the norms of society and commit to an expression. I'm like, hey man, we're filming right here. Can you come over and just talk for a minute? Now it's one of the best interviews we have. And it's all him just diving into exactly that, the drive to create, why we create, some of, his own understandings and relationships with that. And and that happened the first day of filming, and
the serendipity.
Dude, full serendipity, and that
so
stuff
beautiful.
has just been happening. I mean, now, like, meeting to meeting, I mean, my buddy who's connected to this guy who's connected to now our entertainment lawyer who's a pretty big name in entertainment law, and then our executive producer is now an award-winning documentarian that I made friends with. Neil Michael John, who's a massive editor, did Wild Wild Country and all this stuff, like made friends from a girl I was dating, hanging out for 2 months. And I've seen Wild Wild Country, seen him win the Emmy, didn't know who he was for 2 months. And then he's like, I'm like, wait, you're Neil Michael John? We're at a bar. And he's like paying for drinks. I'm like, I've known his name is Neil. I'm like, you're Neil Michael John. He's like, yeah. I'm like, dude, you're the editor. He's like, yeah, I'm an editor. I'm like, yeah, I know you're an editor, but you're Neil Michael John. He's like, yeah, dude.
He's like, you keep saying my name.
Yeah.
Yes, it hasn't changed.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Exactly.
That is my name.
And Neil's a great dude. So he's offered a lot of notes and consultations and editing stuff along the way, and kind of supervised some of the process and us getting it, honing it in. So yeah, man.
There's something about too, I think, just for lack of a more complex statement, putting yourself out there and just kind of allowing for your passion and your why to really, I think, catapult you into unknown territory where you can explore, dream, and create. And within that ethos, I don't know how to explain it. I don't know if there's a scientific formula that does explain it, but these serendipitous connections happen. They really happen. I have a friend who recently
we find
left,
each other.
Yeah,
we all find each
she
other.
left her corporate job with another friend who also left their corporate job, and they founded a small startup. And when they were first starting this, one of the things I shared with them is I said, "You're going to be amazed at how much serendipity there is beyond the bubble of your corporate brand. Like, you are literally going to be blown away, and it's just going to happen." Talking the other day, she's like, "Brad, it's so real.
Yeah.
It just happens. You're here, you meet this person, they introduce you to this person. Before you know it, y'all are working together." And I'm like, that's literally how it works. But it's so hard to explain why.
Let's just call it gravity.
Yeah.
I mean, you're asking about science or equation or math. Let's just call it gravity.
It happens.
Yeah, when we're drawing.
That's John Mayer, right? Gravity?
Oh shit.
No, that's wait, no. Wait, what is the
That's
artist
the name
name?
of the song, yeah.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it is John Mayer.
God dang it.
He's in the film Vengeance. Gosh, have y'all seen Vengeance? The fascinating film just came out recently. Wow, really interesting.
I watched The Menu the other day.
That one's also supposed to be I don't know if I can handle that one. Vengeance is kind of like a comedy thriller combo, and like Ashton Kutcher's in it.
Okay,
There's quite a few people in it, and it's very. I don't know why he's the only one I remember. He's not even the main character, but my brain just totally went quiet. There's a lot of really interesting humans in it, and it's a really beautiful, bizarre, crazy story. It's actually about a guy that ends up making a podcast about a girl that dies from an overdose, but they don't really know what happens. And he didn't really know her very well, but in her phone, it said that she was his boyfriend. No, she was her boyfriend. No, he was her boyfriend. Wow, I'm really struggling on this. That he was her boyfriend. That's what I meant to say. Okay. And it was actually like a cover for someone else. It's really fascinating. It's a beautiful story.
What?
Without giving it away, I'm going to stop there. But it's like, oh my gosh, it's so well done.
I think by the time people hear the podcast, they'll have had ample opportunity.
Yeah, and by the time I won't give the ending away, obviously, but by the end, I was just like, whoa, it's so interesting.
Yeah.
So that was a rapid.
Did I answer your question?
Gravity to.
Have I answered any of your questions?
The
only relevance of Vengeance was John Mayer had a very small role. In Vengeance.
Well, and he had a song called Gravity. But what I want to know is, like, I know that, like, the culmination of all of that effort is like, you've had the opportunity to have conversations with artists in a variety of different mediums, sort of talking about their experience, their artistry, sort of like, I'd love to just sort of, I'm putting you on the spot a little bit here, but it's just like what are like one or two or three sort of things that like you've internalized as you've like had those conversations that are like that, whether they're sort of a mantra or a life philosophy or just like a cool quote that you like to just kind of like run with.
I think, and it goes back to that first trip before I knew what Selfish Heart was. Before I knew that we were going to really focus on
Selfish Heart is the name of your film.
Selfish Heart is the name of the first film, which goes through a lot of my story and a lot of the ancillary stories that we're going to feature in subsequent films or series, however it gets bought and distributed. I don't know, whatever they want to do with it. But the I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought because we're negotiating all that stuff right now.
The fun stuff.
Shit, dude, like film business is nuts. You get a handshake from one guy, you owe that guy 20%. It's just nuts. It's crazy, but it's also fun as hell because you think a deal sounds absurd,
find a way to make it work.
If it makes sense, it'll work in film. But making it make sense, making the right connections, knowing the right people, having people believe in what you're doing and trusting you to execute on the highest level possible, it's hard. Now, what was I trying to answer?
Takeaways from having had these conversations.
So
and,
the first,
meeting all
the
these
first,
folks.
The first time I took those DJs down there, right? Ponch said something, and I think it'll probably come out a little different than what he actually said, but it's something along the lines of like art is war. Like it's creating is just like a fight, just like any type of battle. It's like, and this is what he said, and he was correlating it to fighting because that's what he sees me as is the fighter. It's like you take one or two punches, right? You get knocked down once or twice. You don't just stop, right? You don't just stop and give up. If you do, what do? You stop fighting, right? And that was a conversation that we had that like really was like, oh, this really is all the same. It really is all the same. It's really about battling yourself, and everything in the world, in the universe, and within your experience is probably fighting against you to live that passion. Probably. It's just the way our society's set up, right? Yeah. So in that sense, it's like, yeah, man, like to create, to to dive into what you guys like to call curiosity, to really expound on that, it's fucking war, dude. It's war. You're fighting against every structure of control. You're
The weight of incumbency of society and expectations.
everything goes against what you feel alive doing. Everything, you know, family, friends, loved ones, it doesn't matter. If you truly commit, you're breaking hearts, and you're going to break your own heart throughout that process to really reach a mastery or any level of respect. And like, oh yeah, he did some stuff in that form of expression that amounts to some sort of something, right? It was like legacy, whatever, like something to be recognized by, whatever, right? But what people, I think, forget is like it's war through all those factors, but to really get the best out of you, it's war within yourself.
And
You know-
the connection to mental health is that art, like by finding that place where you've been able to express yourself completely, is that an arrival of, I won't call it an end state because it's fluid and but that is I think we're conditioned to sort of think about mental health as like a state or like an arrival, like a place of being.
Yeah, there's like a stigma too that I really want to fight of that. And it's like, I'm doing art and mental health, not because artists are all a bunch of crazy fucks.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
it's not
Or
that.
that doing art achieves mental health, or like
no,
that one
well,
begets the other, or like,
dude, my art fucked my brain up.
sure.
You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, it's more about like, but I don't regret it whatsoever. You know, I mean, I'm doing proactive things to fight against the high percentile of CTE that I may lie because of the multiple traumatic brain injuries I have. But I like, it's it, man. It's like, yeah, what you said exactly.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
So I really like that thinking. And if we maybe stay here for a moment, when we think about our well-being, right? There's multiple facets of our humanity and our identity. And there's a author named Bob Goff, and I was reading one of his books recently. I was listening to an audiobook, and he tells this story. And in this story, he has a house in Alaska. And one day, one of his neighbors comes over via helicopter, lands on his property. And they don't know each other. So I think this part of the story is actually quite fascinating. There's a lot of trust here. And he says,
just gonna park your heli.
get in the helicopter with me. Which that part, I was like, I don't. And he does. He gets in the helicopter. So that I always thought that part was really interesting. And they fly to what looks like this like snow basin, and they land. And says, come with me. So he goes with them. And they go into this ice cap. And they are inside of this ice cap. They're under the ice cap. And they're looking around, they're exploring, and the way Bob tells the story is he was really fascinated because I guess he's lived there for quite a while and he thought he knew where all the ice caps were and he had never seen this one before. And he then goes on to use this as a metaphor around with our own humanity. How often do we get under the ice cap to the places that are uncomfortable to really start to discover where the frustrations are, where the tensions are, where the beautiful aspects of our humanity are, and then how does that manifest itself into well-being? And that could be spiritual well-being, physical, intellectual, emotional, financial. But I think that before we can move in any direction, we have to be able to get under the ice cap of our own identity and our own humanity and just kind of sit there for a moment. And that's really hard for us to do when we are overstimulated in society today. And we are probably more self-absorbed than we have been historically. I don't know all the scientific data, but social media has played a very real role in a self-absorbed tendency and behavior. And so it's almost like the first step, I think, to get to a state of mental health, intellectual well-being, emotional well-being, spiritual well-being, physical, financial well-being, because I believe all those are really important anchors, is to just kind of sit in silence and just be with yourself long enough to where you start to hear, as we talked about with on the Luis episode, the sounds that we oftentimes don't hear, and like quiet the noise. I think that's such an important point that we all have to get to. And I started that journey in 2019, December 17th, and it has fundamentally reshaped my entire existence. Because as a creative, to your point, we have a lot of frustration. We are constantly met with frustration and tension because we always have different ideas than what everyone else around us has. And that is oftentimes not valued initially. And it appears to be like a virus that needs to be attacked and destroyed because it's different, rather than a celebration and an appreciation of variety. And so psychological safety becomes a very real factor. And there is oftentimes not a psychological safety aspect of this, which then hinders creative confidence. And oftentimes I think frustration, which I almost heard you alluding to in different words, is a very real factor.
We've got plenty of frustrations. I got plenty
especially
of frustrations.
through creativity, right? And I say this all the time, and I just want to say it again. Every human is creative. It's not only reserved for certain types of humans, and everyone can be curious.
I'm glad you
just
said
about
that, because
discovering
when you said as a creative, I almost stopped you to make that very point. I think we're all creatives.
Every human's creative. It's just it's expressed in different ways. And
well, look, not to get too spiritual or get into the fringe of religion or not, but I think that is the spirit of the Creator coming forth.
yeah,
And that's it. And if you don't express that, it dies. And I think that one of my favorite quotes, and this is something that I hope people take the time to dive into, whether or not, wherever you are on the spectrum of your beliefs, I'm okay with, and I accept all their beliefs. But there's a certain line within, and I think all historical religious texts are meant to be explored and understood and applied to your life, whether you're a Christian or whether you're a Muslim or whether you're not, or whether you're atheist or Buddhist or whatever. I don't care. It's just be a good person, I'm cool with that. I don't, whether you're on Allah or God or Buddha, I don't care what side you're on. It's fine. But, as a believer, there's a saying, and here I am. This is gonna really kick off the fringe edge of my beliefs. But within the Gospel of Thomas, there's the line, right? You guys know what the Gospel of Thomas is? Yeah. So there's a line within there. I think it's 117 or 114. It's if you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. Mm-hmm. And if you do bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. That's attributed to Jesus from Thomas and specifically left out
Sure.
of canonical biblical text, right? But I think that is a very powerful statement that as creatives, we should all kind of think about, right?
Wow.
And that'll tip
To
the
sort of
scales.
motivate, there's
Yeah.
a degree of courage that's required.
Oh yeah,
sort of
and if you don't jump
self-confidence
under
to-
that ice cap, you ain't doing shit, bro. You know what I mean? Sorry,
you have to start there.
Like it's uncomfortability. If you
Yeah.
don't put yourself in a place of
being uncomfortable,
you're not going to progress.
No.
You're not going to. Yeah. Dude, I had a goofy ad in the Houston Press for when I started training people. It was like, Sanzo fit, no struggle, no progress. But like that's it though. Like outside of fitness or outside of whatever, it's like everything you want to do.
Yeah.
It's not going to.
Sometimes we
uncomfortable.
just have to be comfortable being uncomfortable. It doesn't have to be forever, right? But I think there needs to be, it's important that there's moments where we're intentional about having that experience. And then over time, it becomes more manageable as well. And initially, you're not going to like the way it feels. And you're going to want to run in any other direction except for that one. It's like when you first start doing yoga. I like have the most beautiful love-hate relationship with yoga, because every single time I'm practicing, in the moment I'm like, I really hate this. And by the end of the session, I'm like, I feel amazing. But having to sit in a position for a period of time is really uncomfortable. Yeah. And my brain is always going 1,000 miles an hour. And so I have to literally sit still in a pose that isn't necessarily natural long enough to get to a point where it starts to feel natural. And I think that is the metaphor here, is sit in those poses long enough. And there's a variety of them in those uncomfortable spaces under the ice cap, but just start to define them, start to give them words, because we may not even know what they are. But if we can say, like, this emotion I can define, and I actually now know what this is, that's an aha moment that you should capture and journal and keep with you and go back to and reference.
It's an opportunity.
Yeah.
Always.
It is.
All struggle.
It's so important.
Yeah. Greg, this has been awesome, man.
It's been a lot of fun.
Long time. Thank you for listening. Join Brad and Scott next time on the Curiosity Podcast.